Hello everyone, this is Tapasya and welcome back to our channel #literature with us. Today in this series of beginners history of English literature, we are going to start with a very important age, that is Elizabethan age or age of Elizabeth. We could clearly say this age was basically known as the golden age, and why it was known as the golden age will I'll let you know in this particular video. So beginning with this particular age, that is Elizabethan age, like early, the previous age that we have discussed is related to the Elizabethan age. Remember that because it was a Renaissance, the age of the Renaissance. So during the period of a Renaissance period, the most important achievement in English literature was in the field of drama. And the dramatists of this golden period include William Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe, Ben Jonson, John Lilly, George Peele, Thomas Kidd, Robert Greene, and others. Now, all these writers produce prolific works. However, the greatest amongst all the Elizabethan dramatists was William Shakespeare, because in his hands, Elizabethan drama reached its climax. And he took English drama to the level which could not be surpassed till today. Remember that. If you see the main characteristics of English Elizabethan drama, which includes revenge, themes, internal conflicts, good versus evil, melodramatic scenes, hero villain protagonist, tragic comedy, presence of supernatural beings such as ghosts and witches, and the use of blank verse. Here are some of the famous dramatists which we are going to study in this particular video. First, very important famous dramatist is Christopher Marlowe. So Christopher Marlowe was born in 1564 and he died in 1593. So he was hardly 35. So in this time limit, he was able to make his name. Okay, he was a very serious man, but and he gave literature a very beautiful writings. So there are famous group of dramatists, remember, in the Elizabethan period, known as university wits. It was actually a professional set of literary men. So, of all the members of this group, Marlowe was the greatest. While other dramatists such as John Lilly, George Peele, Robert Greene, Lodge, and Nash were the minor artists. Nevertheless, if you see, Marlowe's contribution to the Elizabethan drama were absolutely remarkable. Although his plays were different from Shakespeare's in content and style, yet he raised the subject matter of drama to a higher level. It was Christopher Marlowe who gave beauty, dignity, and poetic glow to the drama. And there is no doubt that he did the ground a work of which Shakespeare built the grand edifice. So therefore, Marlowe has been rightly called the father of English dramatic poetry. Christopher Marlowe is called as the father of English dramatic poetry. Okay. Also remember, Christopher Marlowe is known as child of Renaissance. Child of Renaissance. Now, if we talk about his first play, Christopher Marlowe's first play, that is Tamburlaine, Tamburlaine, the first play of Christopher Marlowe. This particular play appeared in year 1587 and it took the public on a storm due to its impetus force, sensitivity to beauty, and splendid command of blank verse. His famous work, however, included the tragical history of Dr. Faustus. The next very important work you should remember is Dr. Faustus. Okay, so this work tells the story of a scholar who sells his soul to the devil for unlimited power and worldly enjoyment. The third and the important famous tragic play of Marlowe is The Jew of Malta. Okay, The Jew of Malta. Now, though it has a glorious opening, uh, if you see, it is not as fine as Dr. Faustus because Dr. Faustus was one of his play which was very famous and till the time it is very famous. Okay, but anyways, The Jew of Malta was also one of his important plays which did not have a grand entry just like Dr. Faustus, but it was on the list of very important writings. And then Marlowe's last play is Edward II. Okay, now this play, which is best for the technical point of view by lacking the you could see rhythmic beauty as well as grandeur of the earlier plays like Tamburlaine, Dr. Faustus, Jew of Malta. It had different beauty in it. It had different type of rhyme in it. But Edward the Two, it was if you see a good play. But technically, if you see, there was a missing rhyming effect, a beauty of rhyme into Edward the Two. I hope everybody is clear with Christopher Marlowe. Now let's move on to one of the famous uh, playwright, you could say, that is William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was born in year 1564 and he died in year 1660. Remember, years vary according to Google, according to Wikipedia, according to different sites seen in um, the Google part. So the basic the years will remain the same, but there will be few changes like maybe 1665 or 1564. So there will be variations. Now, moving on to one of the famous dramatists in Elizabethan age, that was William Shakespeare. So it was Shakespeare, the greatest of all Elizabethan dramatists, who took English drama to the highest peak of fame. He was indeed a gifted man. His brilliant imagination, keen insight, and a creative mind gave new life to the old familiar stories and made them glow with the tenderest feelings and deepest thoughts. His style and versifications were extremely remarkable. He was not only the greatest dramatist of his time, but also a famous poet as well. His sonnet, replete with passion and aesthetic sense, also possesses a significant place in the history of English literature. Although Shakespeare belonged to the Elizabethan age, due to his universality in it belonged to all the times. Now Shakespeare's work include non-dramatic poetry consisting of two narrative poems, that is Venice and Adonis, and the Rape of Lucrece. Let me write it for you. Okay, and also remember Shakespeare had written 154 sonnets. Okay, and also he had written 37 plays in all. Right? So within the lifespan of 24 years, you could see, um, like he had extended, of course, in his writings of 24 years, he had divided four periods, and also this particular age of Elizabethan period has been divided into four periods, and we should know about all the four periods. So let's begin with the first one. The first one, or the first period, it starts from 1577 to 1593. I'm erasing this off. Remember, we are still learning William Shakespeare, and now I have started telling you about the first period, how it was being divided. Okay, so the first period starts from 1577 to 1593, and it is known as the first period. Okay, so if you see that this period includes Shakespeare's early experimental works. Okay, and the famous works of the periods are the revision of old plays as the three parts of Henry VI and Titus Andronicus. His first two comedies, you could see, The Two Gentlemen of Verona and Love Labour's Lost. There is also one more edition in the comedy section, that is A Midsummer's Night Dream, which is one of the ultimate play, which you should actually read it. And The Comedy of Errors, which is again one of the beautiful play written by William Shakespeare. His first chronicle play, that is Richard the Three, and his most famous youthful tragedy, which we all know, is Romeo and Juliet. This comes under the first period, which starts from 1577 to 1593. Now, moving on to the second one, that is 1594 to 1600. Here we are on the second period, and we should know that this period reveals Shakespeare's development as a great thinker and artist. So, the work of this period includes Shakespeare's greatest comedies and chronicle plays such as The Merchant of Venice, Richard the Two, Henry the Four, King John, Henry the Five, Part 1 and Part 2, Much Ado About Nothing, the Taming of the Shrew, As You Like It, The Merry Wives of Windsor, and Twelfth Night. And these were one of the classic plays that he had written. I think every literature student, or not only literature, I hope everybody should read these plays because it really had good meaning in it and beautifully explained about the particular society during the Elizabethan period. Moving on to the third part, that is 1601 to 1608. Here in this, you'll find that Shakespeare had greatest tragedies and somber comedies. So this his main concern, if you see, there is no reveal of the darker side of human personality and the destruction passion, but the major plays which includes like Macbeth, Hamlet, Othello, Julius Caesar, King Lear, then All's Well That Ends Well, Measure for Measure, Coriolanus, Antony and Cleopatra, Troilus and Cressida, and Timon of Athens. So these are few of the important plays which you'll find in the third period. Okay, and these again are one of the beautiful plays of Shakespeare. I would suggest everybody that you can watch a movie that is Shakespeare in Love. I think it is there on YouTube. So if I find it, I'll put the link also in this particular video. Everybody should watch that movie to for the better understanding of Shakespeare and his life, and second of all, to know about how these four periods have been divided, because it was on his mood and the society that has been changed. So coming to the fourth period, that is 1608 to 1612. This is the fourth and the last period. Now, in this period, it includes Shakespeare's later dramatic romances and comedies. And here we see the decline of power, of thoughts and expression. And still, his plays are known to be very tender and gracious. So, the famous work of this period are The Winter's Tale, The Tempest, and Cymbeline. He wrote all these plays in collaboration with other dramatists. Remember that. And here we come to an end with William Shakespeare. Let's move on to one of the important playwright during that period, that is Ben Jonson. Again, this is the third dramatist that we are talking about. The first one was Christopher Marlowe. The second is William Shakespeare. And then we have come here to the third important dramatist of Elizabethan age, that is Ben Jonson. (1573 to 1637). Okay, let's talk about Ben Jonson. Like I have already referred you a movie for a better understanding. You'll find Ben Jonson's role also being seen in Shakespeare in Love, and it's really good to know about Ben Jonson in that movie. Now, Ben Jonson was Shakespeare's contemporary. Remember that, as well as a very prominent dramatist of that particular time period. But he was just the opposite of Shakespeare, a moralist, reformer, and a classicist. So Johnson, in his works, presented a true picture of contemporary society. He wrote his plays in a realistic manner and introduced his theory of humor. Humor. His famous comedies are, you need to remember, that is, the famous one is The Alchemist. Next is Bartholomew Fair. Next is Volpone. Next is Every Man in His Humor. Next is Every Man Out of His Humor. And the last one is The Silent Moon. Let me write it for you for the better understanding. The first one is, of course, The Alchemist. The next one is Bartholomew's Fair. The next one is Volpone. The next one is Every Man in Its Humor. Fifth one is Every Man Out of His Humor. Then sixth one is right. We have written Volpone. The last one is The Silent Woman. Okay, so 6 important works of Ben Jonson you need to remember. Now there are other major figures also you should remember in Elizabethan period. That is, there are many other playwrights who are the part of golden age of English drama. For instance, John Lilly, who wrote Euphues. Please do remember, I'm erasing this off. You should remember John Lilly also, because Euphues is something which, if you see the poem, you see the writing of that particular poem, you'll find a pot that has been created. So it has been structured very well. So it is Lily, and we have a famous writing of his, that is Ulysses. Then we have Sappho and Phaedo. Then we have Midas, Endymion, and Campesis. Then we have Thomas Kyd, again, a new university wit who had written the Spanish tragedy. Spanish tragedy. Then we have Robert Greene. Sorry. He wrote Orlando. Furioso. So compared to the other works, if you see, compared to the other works of the greatest dramatists of this period, their works were a bit little important, but of course they had hit in the period of Elizabethan age. Okay. Now, since we know who is known as the father of English literature, it was Geoffrey de Chaucer. Then we came to know about Christopher Marlowe, who was known to be the child of Renaissance and was also known as one of the greatest dramatists in the Elizabethan age. Then we have, of course, the father of English drama, which is William Shakespeare. Now we have one another father of English prose, that is William Tyndale. Now, before talking about him, let me take you to the new part of Elizabethan period. Remember, this comes under Elizabethan period. The period of Elizabethan, the golden age had a stop in between, and there arose an age that was the Puritan age. This was from 1600 to 1660. Let's continue that what exactly this Puritan age is all about. Now, if you see, in 17th century, there came a decline of Renaissance spirit. But the writer of that time, they either imitated the Elizabethan masters or paved new paths. So 17th century's literature is divided into two periods. The first one is the Puritan age or the age of Milton. So remember, Puritan age is also known as age of Milton, and the Restoration period or the age of Dryden. Getting it? So 1600 to 1660 is known as Puritan age, and the next age, that is the Restoration age, which has come from 1660 to 1700. So up to 1660, Puritanism dominated 17th century. John Milton was the greatest representative of Puritan spirit. And Puritan movement in literature is also called as Second Renaissance because there was a revival of man's moral nature, and it stood for people's liberty from the shackles of despotic rulers and introduced morality and high ideas in politics. Now, John Milton, of course, who was born in year 1608, 1674, was one of the most significant poet of Puritan age. He was a great scholar of classical as well as Hebrew literature. A child of the Renaissance, Milton was also a great humanist. So as an artist, he may be called as the last Elizabethan. Now, Milton's greatest poetical work was Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained, and Samson Agonistes. Besides Milton, the poetry of school of Spenser, the metaphysical poets, the cavalier poets, they also earned great fame during this particular period. But no one of them was as a noblest and indomitable representatives of Puritan spirit as John Milton was. So, however, this period was rich in prose as well. Among the great prose writers of Puritan age, which includes Francis Bacon, Milton, then Robert Burton, then comes Jeremy Tyler, Sir Thomas Browne, and Clarendon. During this period, we found English prose developing into a magniloquent and rich instrument capable of expressing all types of ideas, such as scientific, philosophical, poetic, religious, and personal. Now, in this lecture, I am not telling you about the history of Puritan age. I would like to put up few of the slides regarding Puritan age, what exactly the story was. You can check it on the page of our YouTube community about the Puritan age. And here we come to an end in the golden era of Elizabethan age, and we have learnt about one of the few of the well-known Elizabethan dramatists, also the in between ages that have been stuck in the Elizabethan age. So I think I hope you must have understood this particular lecture on Elizabethan age, and thank you so much for watching this lecture.